Hey everybody, Papa Wiggs here with Wiggs again. We're shooting another head-to-head video. We thought this one would be an interesting one to discuss. Calvin Ridley versus DeAndre Hopkins for the Titans. This one is intriguing to me personally because I think they're both older now. Obviously, Ridley's got a little less wear and tear than Hopkins because of how much time he missed. But last year they had pretty comparable seasons as it relates to yards. They both were just a little over 1,000 yards. Hopkins had about 40 more yards, and they both were Ridley had 8 touchdowns. Hopkins had 7. So really, really, really close on this one. My take on this is that, I think Ridley, now that he has a full year under his belt, I think his football shape is probably going to be a little bit better. I know some people will say, well, he probably was in great shape. I think there's a huge difference in training and actually taking hits out on the football field in a real life game and stuff. So I think he'll be a little bit better shape. But I think, my gut is telling me on this one that Hopkins, first of all, Hopkins is supposed to be ready for week 1 from everything that I've seen. Initially they thought maybe he was going to miss some time, but now they're saying he's supposedly going to be ready for week 1. Which is good news for the Titans. I got to give the edge to Hopkins here, though, and the only reason I'm doing that is because I think him and Levy's really built a connection last year. I think Levy's is comfortable with Hopkins, and Hopkins is comfortable with him. So I think they've got that chemistry going. I think it's going to take Levy's and Ridley a little bit of time to build some chemistry. I'm not saying that doesn't mean Ridley's not going to be effective in the offense. I just think that Hopkins is probably going to be Will's go-to guy, when he's out on the field with them and stuff. That's just my opinion. So I definitely think they're going to be more pass-heavy this year. So I think there is a chance. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think there is a chance that these guys both could still be around 1,000 yards this year. I mean, last year, Hopkins, did he miss any games last year? Last year, Hopkins, I think, he played all 17, and I think Ridley, I don't know, was Ridley, I don't know if Ridley missed any last year or not. I think he played all 17 last year as well. So I do think there's a shot that they both could maybe be over 1,000 yards. I think they're both really good targets down in the red zone, so I can see them still being right around the 8 to 10 TD mark. I got to give the edge to Hopkins probably in regards to, if they're both out there the same amount of games and they don't miss time. I got to give Hopkins maybe a little bit of an edge over Ridley as it relates to who's going to come out on top with targets and receptions. I mean, last year, Ridley had, over 120, over 130 targets and 76 receptions, and Hopkins had over 130 targets and 75 receptions. So I still got to give the edge to Hopkins there. My initial rankings, I think I might have had, I don't know if I had Ridley over Hopkins, I might have. But, after thinking about it more, I kind of think it's probably going to be reversed a little bit. That's just my opinion. So, and then you got the Tyler Boyd factor, right? That's the other thing, too. So I think Tyler Boyd's going to definitely garnish some attention in their offense, and he's probably going to take away some from both of them. So I don't know that, neither one of them will have the same amount of receptions as last year. Might be a little bit lower reception year. And if I had to pick one to go over 1,000 yards, it would be Hopkins, just because of his connection with Levy's. Again, that's just my 2 cents. But you never know. Every year's different and stuff. So, what do you think, Wiggs?
I think it really could go either way. I don't really have like a solid foundation of which side I'm on here, but for me, like Calvin Ridley's got the talent, he's got the speed. He showed it last year, even coming off a year where he was suspended. And then Hopkins, yeah, he's getting up there in age, but he still showed he had it last year through a connection, like you said there with Levis. And I really think it could go either way. I think they both could end up being over 1,000 yards. I could see them both being under 1,000 yards, just with the whole Tyler Boyd factor. And on top of that, you got a tight end in Okonkwo, and then you still have two receiving running backs. So it's kind of hard to judge where these two receivers will pan out. Like I could see it going a bunch of different ways. Like I said, over 1,000 yards, under. Heck, if Levis is having a good year, maybe we see three receivers pushing 1,000 yards in this offense with Tyler Boyd. It's kind of just all over the place, and I'm not exactly sure where to sway. Like I want to go with Ridley, but like I really can't with the year Hopkins had with Levis last year. So it's a little hard for me, at least, to judge. But I do agree with you, touchdown wise, they both should be around the same. I think Tyler Boyd will even be around the same with touchdowns. So it'll be a little interesting. As long as Levis plays good, I think both these guys are pretty good, wide receiver two or flex options in any fantasy league.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think either one of them are technically a wide receiver one. The highest I would say is wide receiver. Probably middle to low end wide receiver two flex. So I agree with that, and they both are. I think Ridley's going to be turning 30 this year.
Yeah.
So they're both getting up there. Hopefully they both are able to stay out on the field and not get hurt. Um, if either one of these guys end up off the field, that's going to actually up the value of Tyler Boyd because he's definitely going to be a guy that could shoot up there if either one of these guys experience any kind of missed time out on the field. So it is really hard to judge because you just don't know because they both are older. You don't know if they're going to lose a step or two. I will say that Calvin Ridley did look good last year going
Yeah.
deep. So I don't know that he's really lost too much. So if he's in the same shape and pan like he was last year, I give him the edge on deep ball. Just because D Hop is he's coming off the preseason injury that he had and stuff, but I do agree. I think it can go either way. I definitely think Boyd's going to take away from them. Um, so if I were to make a prediction right now myself, this is what I'm thinking. I can see Hopkins with maybe and again, this is if they play a full season. I could see him with maybe 60 to 65 receptions. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say he's going to have 1,000 yards, but I don't. If he does hit that 1,000 yard mark, I don't think it's going to be much more uh, um, than 1,000 yards. And then like I said earlier, I think he could have anywhere from 8 to 10 touchdowns. With Ridley, I kind of feel like his production is going to be a little bit lower than Hopkins. I think Ridley might have around 50 receptions, and you know I think he could potentially, depending on the size of those receptions, he could still tinker with the 1,000 yard mark. But I do agree with Wiggs that he probably won't. So I'm going to go conservative on it. I'm going to say that Ridley, with the Boyd factor and everything, I think Ridley maybe 750 yards, possibly 800. I do think he'll have a factor in the red zone and TD wise, so I do think that he's got potential to get the 8 to 10 TDs as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did, because I do think that when you throw Tyler Boyd in there, I think Boyd, if these guys stay out on the field healthy, um, and Boyd stays out on the field and he's healthy, I think Boyd's still going to end up, you know, for my for me, I think Boyd could still end up with 500-600 yards, and maybe you know 30 to 40 receptions, something like that. I think Boyd can maybe have 3 or 4 touchdowns, in that 3-4 touchdown range. So it'll be interesting. They've got one of the more interesting wide receiver combinations. Wouldn't you agree, Wiggs? I mean, they got a couple older guys. I don't know that Boyd's extremely old.
Same age as Ridley.
Is he the same age?
29.
So they really got three.
They got an old receiving
They got
core.
some 3 old receivers. There's a lot of talk that they may or may not keep Traylon Burks. There's the potential that he gets traded. So you got got Burks in there. And I do agree with Wiggs. I think that Spears and Pollard are both going to be a factor in the passing game as well, because I think that both of those guys are good off of the screen. So you got that factor, and they do have a solid TE, as well. I don't know that it'll just be interesting to see how that all plays out, and how healthy these guys are going to be able to stay this year, given that they're creeping up there and stuff, and the fact that Hopkins has already had to deal with an injury in preseason makes me a little nervous, because that could be a sign that he could be dealing with some nagging injuries this year and may miss a few games. So that would make me nervous. And I agree with Wiggs that these guys are definitely, for me, mid to low wide receiver 2 flex options. Definitely you got to have them on your roster, because you just never know. I think it all depends on how Levis does as well, and stuff. But I think he showed. That he's going to be an effective quarterback in the NFL. I think he was a step up from Tannehill, and so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, it definitely will be interesting, and I just want to note that I know we don't have Tyler Boyd on here, but I wouldn't be shocked if he also went for over 60 receptions as well. I got a feeling this might be kind of like the Seattle offense of last year, where they have 3 guys with over 65 plus receptions and over 100 targets, because I think this is going to be a really pass heavy offense this year. I don't know how much of an impact Pollard and Spears will have. I could actually see it not being as big as it has been in the past, just now that they have a ton of weapons, but we'll kind of see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So with that, Wiggs, you got anything else to add on this one?
Nope.
All right. Well, hopefully, again, we hope you guys are finding this content beneficial. Check us out on Fantasy Fools PPR on YouTube. Check us out. We're also out on Snapchat, X, Instagram, TikTok. Wiggs is getting the content out there. Like, follow, subscribe. We appreciate all your guys' feedback and views and stuff. So we just want to give you another option, another opinion. So with that, have a great day.